Geshe, will you recite them?
Sure. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So as clearly mentioned, the reason to take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is that we have a problem. Normally, when you take refuge in something, it means you have an issue, you have a problem. As I jokingly tell people that when it is exactly at 12 o'clock lunchtime, then you take refuge in lunch. So similarly, when you say I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, you are saying I have a problem. So here the problem is the problem of suffering, which is created by negative emotions. So therefore, in order to remove negative emotions and cultivate the positive emotions, it is important to understand them, how destructive these negative emotions are and how useful the positive emotions are. And as the Buddha clearly mentioned that I can show you the path to liberation, and liberation is up to you. So when it comes to removing suffering, we cannot just take it away just like a thorn that is pricked in your leg. Then you pull it out. It's not like that. You cannot take the suffering out like that. You need to understand the causes of the suffering, which are none other than your contaminated actions. And the contaminated actions are committed because of negative emotions. The negative emotions are there because for many past lives you are habituated with that. And in today's world, in our actual life also, there are many facilitating factors for developing negative emotions and not many facilitating factors for developing positive emotions. So therefore, it is very important to really concentrate and have courage and determination to do practice. Otherwise, since majority of the people are not in this line, it may be almost an uphill task for you to do Dharma practice. So therefore, it is important to make concerted effort and learn to spend as much time as possible alone, reading the text, learning from spiritual teachers, and then thinking about the meaning of those teachings and implementing it. And implementation is the most difficult part. Even if you are like, it's really like, even if you are living amidst a big ocean, but if you don't drink water, you will die of thirst, right? So therefore, it is important to practice whatever small you should try to practice it. When it comes to doing good things, don't say this is just small, insignificant, it will not have much impact. That's not true. When it comes to doing good things, don't ignore even the smallest practices. When it also comes to avoiding and removing negative emotions, don't say this is such a small mistake. It's okay. It's not okay. You might get habituated with those kind of negative activities. You might get addicted, and later on it will become very difficult for you to get rid of those negative emotions. So right in the beginning, before the spark becomes a forest fire, it is important to identify the negative emotions right away and try to weaken them, reduce them, and gradually eliminate them. So that is the purpose of our gathering here today. And as we can all see that today, everywhere in the world, there are a lot of fightings and conflicts going on. And all these fightings and conflicts are primarily, whatever kind of reasons they may put forth, But at the end of the day, it is all rooted in negative emotions, victory for oneself and defeat on others. So it is primarily related to egoistic negative attitude, right? So therefore, it is important to understand that the solution will come by changing one's attitude and removing this egoistic self-attitude and replacing it with altruistic attitude, bodhicitta. Because in order to do that, you need to have some bigger perspective of the realities of life. And if you look at the world or the people living in the world from a larger perspective, we're just here for a very short time. So you don't have to kill each other with ballistic missiles and bombs, right? The only thing we need is to enjoy this short life and live in harmony and help each other. This is the most important thing. So therefore, now let us continue with the text. We are reading the 10 things that are necessary, and we under that title we already read 7 points. We are now reading the 8th point. The 8th point says it is necessary to always persevere. Persevere means make effort. It is always necessary to persevere and accumulate the two collections through preparation, actual practice, and conclusion. So when it comes to doing good things, the preparation should be good, the actual practice should be good, and the conclusion should be good. All these three things must be there. So therefore, in this case, he is saying that that you should always, in terms of your spiritual practice, if you don't know what kind of practice you should do, he's saying that one way of doing that is you should engage in collecting the two, engage in practicing the two collections. Two collections means collection of merit and collection of wisdom. That means on the one hand, you should develop compassion and love and bodhicitta, and on the other hand, develop wisdom. I name it by saying this is like a development of the head and the heart. Head and the heart. So development of heart means you should develop compassion, love, and altruism and bodhicitta. And that kind of development of the heart must be supported by knowledge, understanding. It should not be just based on, feel good practices, right? So therefore, it is important to uh, develop this love and compassion with understanding that compassion is important, with understanding that love is important, altruism is important. Now, why this love is important, compassion is important? It probably is not that hard to understand, because if you look at how we started our life, in other words, the conception that took place in the womb of the mother did not take place out of hatred and anger. It took place out of love, right? And similarly, after the birth, the child is able to flourish, again, not because of hatred and anger, it's because of love and affection by the mother and others who looked after their child. So it's very, very clear, actually, very clear. And then also look at the state of your own body. It's very suitable. Love and compassion and altruism are very suitable for your body, for your physical health, for your mental health. Hatred, anger, jealousy, even if you are not believing any particular religion, but your common sense should tell you that anger, jealousy, hatred, these are not good for your mind, not good for your body. Right? Right? It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, the problem is, where it is necessary to think and understand, we are not using our brain, using our mind. We are using our brain and mind for stupid things, useless things, Then there we are very sharp. When it comes to doing something negative, we are very clever, we are very inventive, we are very sharp, we are very efficient. When it comes to doing something good, we are not that good. For example, I'm not saying army, is bad or anything, military is bad or anything, but there, the main job is to not necessarily kill people, but you are trained to, do away with the enemy. So there the uniform is smart, and the implement that you use are smart, and things like that. But when it comes to doing good things, people doing good things are not visible. They don't have, smart uniforms to wear, saying that we are the army of the peace, right? And then if you look at the government departments also, there is a Department of Defense. I have not heard about Department of Peace. Is there one? I have no idea. Maybe there. But this is the way we think, you see. But the reality is, as I mentioned earlier, if you really look from a larger perspective, then basically we are able to survive because of peace, because of love, because of compassion. As I mentioned last time also, in one big city, in a day, at the most there may be 5, 6, 10, or maybe maximum 100 killings and things like that, but not much. But millions are looked after by the parents. Millions are looked after and treated in the hospitals. So there is a predominant presence of love, presence of compassion, but we are not able to show it. That this is more important. Right? Right? And as I mentioned last time also, you know, as Shantideva says, there's no need to kill, they will die. They'll die anyway. So you can see the stupidity. You can see the stupidity. And especially in today's world, waging a war means completely wiping out cities, towns, thousands of people at one go. Right? So we can't just blame some leaders and things like that. It is high time that the citizens, the population everywhere should really raise the voice against this race and competition in war and conflict and making atom bombs and things like that. We should really plan for uh, denuclearization or dearmament. It's high time people should raise this voice. Anyway, this is a little bit aside. So when you do your practice, especially in this case, he is talking about collecting, practicing the two collections, that is collecting or developing compassion and developing wisdom. So in this case also, that you should do the preparation, the actual and conclusion perfectly. For example, even if you're reciting, say, a mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, right? Then what should be the preparation? Preparation is take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And why should you take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? You should know a little bit about who is Buddha, who is Dharma, who is Sangha, why you take refuge in them. And then also cultivate bodhicitta, the wish to benefit all sentient beings. And so therefore the preparation or motivation should be to help all sentient beings liberated from samsara and to put them to the state of the Buddhahood. So similarly, whether it's observing a morality or engaging in listening or contemplation or meditation, they should start with this process of taking refuge and cultivation of bodhicitta. And then during the actual practice, you should not remain distracted, looking up, looking down, Uh, you should really focus on the actual practice. For example, if you are thinking cultivating wisdom, then you should see all phenomena like a dream, like an illusion. In other words, you should see all phenomena having no inherent or intrinsic existence. The purpose of doing such a meditation is that in reality, it's not just made of. In reality, everything that we are experiencing, be it the wealth that you are enjoying today, or be it your relatives and friends with whom you are living today, they're really like a dream, like an illusion. Today they may be here, tomorrow they may be gone. And if you look at how did you get your property, how did you meet with these people, so-called relatives, it's all like dream. There's one way of understanding and seeing them as illusion, as a dream. Now, the purpose of seeing things as illusion, as a dream, is so that you remove your obsession with those things. It is not to say don't love them, don't have compassion to them. It is to remove your obsession and attachment and craving towards them. Right? The interesting thing, I think I mentioned last time also, if not, I'm going to repeat this again. The more you understand the reality, the fragility of the people, the impermanence of the people, or seeing them as illusion, the more you're able to see the reality, more it will help you develop the positive qualities like love, compassion, and so forth. The more you're able to see the reality, the more it will help you to reduce the negative emotions. For example, when you see things like your relatives and friends as like a dream, then that will help you reduce attachment. Why should you develop so much obsession and attachment to something which is like a dream, which is like an illusion, right? But like an illusion, like a dream, doesn't mean they don't exist. They exist. Not only they exist, their existence is fleeting, impermanent, fragile. Therefore, there is every reason to love them, to have compassion towards them. So that is really the profound meaning of such a practice, right? So therefore, see all phenomena like a dream, and try to refute seeing them as having inherent existence. So based on whatever practice you are doing, uh, you should, during the actual practice, you should influence that practice, seeing them as having no inherent, no independent existence. This will really, really liberate you. And unexpected things are bound to come. Death of your relative, separation from your wealth, all these things are bound to come. When they come, you will not be shocked because you know this is the way it is, right? And then while you're alive, while you're enjoying your property, while you are having, a good relationship with your relatives and friends, so forth, you will again really appreciate that, right? So therefore, it's important that whatever practice you do during the actual practice, you should see them as having no inherent existence. And then at the conclusion, whatever merit you have accumulated by this practice, be it your reliance on the spiritual teacher, be it your meditation on compassion, be it your meditation on love, whatever practices you did, you should, and in the end, that's in the conclusion, dedicate it by saying that may this practice becomes a cause to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. It is said that whatever good things you do, if you dedicate it, it will not be lost. It's like putting your money in the bank, right? In some countries, you get very good interest. In some countries, you may not get much interest, but still, it is supposed to be safe there. Although this is not very true these days, right? But generally speaking, it is said that there is a more possibility to, get some interest, or at least, the capital will remain secure there. So therefore, dedicate it. And if you don't dedicate it, then it is said that you may have done something good practice, but after which you become angry, and then all the good things that you've done will be destroyed. So therefore, it's important to dedicate it. So with this kind of uh, practice, having proper preparation, actual practice, and proper conclusion, you should engage in the practice of collecting the two merit, collecting the two collections, that is merit and wisdom, because it is this development of the merit and wisdom that gradually you will achieve the two bodies of the Buddha, the form body and the wisdom body, or the truth body, right? So in the begin, as a beginner, we may not be able to develop, perfect uh, primordial wisdom or wisdom understanding emptiness. But at least if you do your practice without much concern to your personal well-being alone, and at least reflect about the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, then this is like development of the two collections, two pure collections. And what is the reason? What is the reason that you engage in these two practice of the two collections? Right? So then the next, two points explain these two. First, the verse 9, and the point 9 says, it is necessary for one's mind to be focused on the well-being of others, directly or indirectly, out of loving kindness and compassion. So this is collection of merit. Out of the two collections, he now explains, although I have already explained, but he also now explains the two collections. The first is the collection of merit. Collection of merit means development of loving kindness and development of compassion. So you should always develop loving kindness and compassion and try to, your mind should be turned towards benefiting others directly or indirectly. I mean, this is not just good for others, it's really, really good for yourself. You will feel so happy and satisfied, so relaxed because you're opening your inner door. Instead of, thinking about others' well-being, if you just get obsessed with yourself, then you are closing the door. The more you close the inner door, the more you will experience loneliness and narrow-mindedness, and which leads to all kinds of diseases, including many of the modern diseases, depression, loneliness, and so forth, right? So therefore, develop this too, loving kindness, thinking how nice if all sentient beings meet with happiness, that is loving kindness. Compassion, thinking how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering, that is compassion. So directly or indirectly. Indirectly means, for example, as Shantideva in his Bodhicharya Avatar says, he talks about the need to do so many practices, but then he says the most important practice is you should always think about others' well-being, directly or indirectly. Right? This is really like, in terms of a spiritual practitioner, this is the national highway. And there is so much reason to that. If you think, sit down and think a little bit, then, whoever they are, from the east, from the west, men, women, grown up, person or a child, whoever they are, there's nobody who doesn't want happiness and peace. Rich, poor, leader or, ordinary person, whoever, there's nothing. At the end of the day, there's nobody who doesn't want peace and happiness. For example, some of these stupid leaders who engage in war, in the beginning, they seem to be very brave, on both sides of the nation, the army generals and so forth. They they make a lot of propaganda, and it seems like very brave. And I've seen this repeatedly. In the beginning, when some people, two countries were about to wage a war, and then somebody says, "Please don't wage a war," they don't listen, saying this is their fault, not my fault. I have every reason to fight, things like that. And then they start fighting. Then after a while, having killed thousands of people on both the sides, then always say ceasefire. This is done repeatedly. I've seen this myself repeatedly in all countries. So why can't you stop these things right in the beginning? Right? And they say ceasefire because they are not necessarily concerned with other people. They themselves are very scared now. Now it's my turn. I might be killed, you see. This is the thing. So at the end of the day, there is nobody who doesn't want happiness, who doesn't want peace. It's only our negative self-cherishing attitude that we forget about others, think about only oneself, and then because of this concern for oneself, you also pretend that you are concerned for your country, for your nation, things like that, which is in most cases, which is hypocrisy. You primarily think about yourself, right? Which is source of all the evils. As is mentioned in one text, that all the well-being, happiness comes because of altruism, the wish to benefit others. All the miseries, sufferings, they come from thinking just oneself and completely forgetting others. I mean, after reading all these texts again and again, I've been reading all these texts again and again. So I'm not saying I have any special realization or practice, but these days when I see people, whoever they are, I feel immediately kind of concerned. And I pray that they be happy because I don't know how long they are living. And if you look at their eyes, especially the eyes of the small kids, they all aspire to be happy. There is radiance, there is hope. But because of our stupidity, our narrow-mindedness, even this short life, we do not allow people to enjoy, to be happy, which is so sad, which is so sad. Because from Buddhist viewpoint, number one, reality is that we are already in the samsara. We are not Buddhas. We are not enlightened beings. We are in the samsara. We are in the cycle of existence, which means we all have problems, right? As if add fuel to the fire, as if not contented with all these sufferings in the samsara, you mistreat other people. You don't encourage other people. You judge other people. You bully other people, which is totally nonsense. So if you don't have compassion for other people, then the very foundation of Dharma is rotten, gets rotten, decayed. Very foundation is lost. Therefore, the Buddha said, if you have one practice in the palm of your hand, you have all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that practice? It is great compassion. Great compassion. How nice if all these sentient beings, whoever they are, my country, their country, doesn't matter. They're all same. They all be happy. Even if people enjoying a small, bite of chocolate and then feeling happy, wonderful, be happy. Although don't eat too much, but be happy, right? So we can through this practice, through this transformation of mind, we can make this world a heaven, or at least you can make your neighborhood heaven, or at least you can make your family heaven, or at least yourself you can remain as if you already obtained nirvana. You can be so happy with this kind of attitude, right? You do your work hard, study hard, and then be happy, and then understand the meaning of education properly. It is not just literacy, it is for human flourishing, human happiness. So therefore, for your salary, for your money, you need to do some work, you need to study, but that doesn't mean that is the real meaning of education. Education means every day you should be happy, thinking that I'm a human being. I am not a dog, I'm not a cow, you know. So therefore, there is a practice in the Guru Yoga practice that right in the morning when you get up, you should get up in the state of bliss, in the state of bliss, in the state of peace, right? And then pray that the sentient beings and the environment in which all these sentient beings live are in peace, are in harmony, right? So it is in this context that we can do all these mind training practices. So especially when you engage in the Mahayana practice, Bodhisattva practice, then these two, the practice of the two collections, the merit and wisdom, should all become practices for others, not for you. When we develop compassion, of course, the very definition of compassion says, may all sentient beings be without suffering. And when you develop wisdom, realizing emptiness, that is to say that sentient beings are suffering because of ignorance, because of seeing things as having inherent independent existence, which is not there, right? So therefore, now I will help them by removing and eradicating their ignorance, removing their misconception of reality. So it's all for others. And with this kind of dedicated practice for others, your own purpose is fulfilled automatically as a byproduct. This is the thing. Now, ordinarily, ordinary people, we focus only on oneself and don't get anything. You think only about yourself. I need this. This is for me. I mean, saying that this is for me is not a problem, but thinking only about oneself, not at all thinking about others, is source of all the problems, including physical, mental diseases, which is now scientifically proved. I'm not just saying it is scientifically proved, right? So therefore, uh, this narrow-minded, self-cherishing attitude is the source of all the downfalls. And cherishing the mother sentient beings is the basis of all qualities. Therefore, you should engage in this yoga of exchanging oneself for others. That this is a verse found in the Lama Chopa Guru Yoga practice. Right? So here when we talk about collecting the merit, you should think about all mother sentient beings who are infinite like the extent of the space. See them as your mother. Meaning that in the past many lives, they may have acted as your mother, as your brother, as your father, a sister, and so forth. And mother is an example of somebody who has given you the greatest kindness in this life. With this example, we normally use the word all mother sentient beings. So remember all of them as your mother. Meaning that if they have acted as your mother, then you can easily remember how kind the mother is in this present life. Take the same example. And then remember their kindness. Then think about how to repay their kindness. Then develop this loving kindness. Then develop compassion. And then develop this special mind called flaksam. And then after that, development of bodhicitta. That's the process. And so with this kind of wish to benefit all sentient beings to achieve Buddhahood, and having developed this bodhicitta, then as much as possible practice the six perfections. Those who are in need, give something to them. And these days, luckily many of us have many things to give. Still today, the world has so many poor people, so many poor people. Majority are very, very poor. Majority are very, very poor. So comparing to this, most of us are very lucky. So we really have things to give. So at least those things that you have collected over the years, which you are not using, please give them. There are many people who are dying to have those things which you are not using. Give them, practice them. And then that is one way of giving material things. The second way of giving is giving fearlessness. In big cities, there are people who are exploited, who are bullied, who have nobody to talk to, full of fear. So talk to them, give them some inspiration, give them hope. So that is called giving fearlessness. And the most important giving is gift of teaching, gift of Dharma. Not necessarily Buddhist teaching. Buddhist teaching, of course, is wonderful, but even otherwise, teach them skills, giving them some like education so that they are able to look after themselves, right? So if you don't have this capacity to do all this, then at least pray that if this occasion arises, I will benefit them. So therefore, with loving kindness, with compassion, making your mind full of loving kindness and compassion is one of the primary practice of the Mahayana. Just by that, you may not be able to achieve Buddhahood, because that is not direct antidote to ignorance. But so therefore, just by this, you will not be able to achieve Buddhahood. Therefore, this practice of loving kindness and compassion must be supported by the practice of wisdom that sees the reality as it is. So that is the meaning of collecting the two collections, merit and wisdom. In other words, as to simplify it, it's developing good heart and good head, meaning that the love and compassion that we are asked to cultivate should be based on reason, based on knowledge, with wisdom, with knowledge. Why? Because everybody has suffering, everybody has problem. Everybody wants peace. Everybody wants happiness, right? So with this kind of understanding, the more profound understanding that you have of the reality, the stronger will be your love, stronger will be your compassion. If you, without that knowledge, if you simply develop love and compassion, it may be ephemeral. It will not last very long, right? So therefore, it is really important to uh, develop good understanding. If you look at different individuals or different sentient beings, you can clearly see how much they are struggling to get a little bit of happiness, be it food, be it clothing, be it house, they struggle so much, right? Now imagine this, for example, if you see a young girl struggling to get food, clothing, so forth, you can imagine, how about if this is my sister? When you see an elderly person struggling, how about if this is my father, my mother? Of course, in the initial stage, it will be very difficult to, develop this similar attitude to the stranger, to your father, but you will get some sense why I care so much about my father and not these other people, right? And then when they are really struggling, even if you help them a little bit, there is so much kind of thankfulness to that person. You don't really need to give a lot of money or things like that. Even small help is a big thing for them, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to do Dharma practice. So do it. Okay. Number 10, it is necessary not to let all phenomena be reduced to mere things and science through wisdom and realization. So that means in this way, when you do something for the benefit of others, make sure that it is not done with grasping, thinking as if these people have inherent existence. Because if you think like that, it will become a bondage. So here, when we talk about wisdom, we are primarily talking about wisdom that is developed through listening. Because right in the beginning, we'll not be able to develop wisdom that comes from meditation. So therefore, in the beginning, this listening, the wisdom that you develop must be by listening to a teacher, or by reading a scripture or some other treatises by Nagarjuna and so forth. So in this way, through listening, you should develop some understanding that all phenomena do not have independent inherent existence. So even when you, for example, even when you practice giving, you should be able to see the gift, the material possession that you are giving also doesn't have inherent existence. The giver, you yourself, also doesn't have inherent existence. The person to whom you are giving also doesn't have inherent existence, right? So that is called seeing the three cycles as having no inherent existence, right? So they are, as we mentioned already, they're like illusion, they are like a dream, and in this way you will get some general idea of having no inherent existence. And after that, then based on this listening, you need to do a little bit thinking, little bit of more thinking and more contemplation, and thereby you are able to develop some understanding of what you read or what you heard, right? And then you first develop this understanding, not the realization. You develop this understanding, and so by developing this understanding, you're able to remove the grosser level of grasping of seeing things as having inherent existence. And after that understanding, then you develop realization that comes through meditation, where you are able to directly perceive emptiness and then all your activities will not be controlled by seeing things as having inherent existence. So this is how this line is explained. Or the another way of explanation is that with wisdom and realization, understanding and realization, not only during the meditative session, but also during the post-meditative session, make sure that your practices does not end up grasping to things and seeing them as having inherent existence. Okay. Now let us move to the third point, 10 things to rely upon. Because if you need to do Dharma practice, then you need to know what to adopt and what to give up. What to adopt, what to practice, and what not to practice, what to give up. It's important to know that. So therefore, first it says there are 10 things that you should need to resort to. You need to rely upon. Out of which the first thing is rely on a sublime Lama who possesses realizations and compassion. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even in our ordinary worldly activities, it is important to have a teacher in the classroom, whether you learn carpentry or masonry or any art, any craft, or other things that you want to study. You need to rely on a person who knows these things much better than you. So similarly, when we talk about engaging in spiritual dharma practice, it is important to rely upon a lama. And you know the meaning of the lama? Lama means somebody superior. Now there are a lot of misconceptions here. Not all the monks are lamas. We don't call all the monks lamas. People who don't know, they call all the monks lama. It's not lama, right? All the monks are not lamas. Lama means superior. And therefore it's so important that you understand everything properly. And even those people who have the title Lama may not necessarily be a Lama in the true sense of the term. So therefore, who is Lama, who is not a Lama, you need to understand this through proper reflection. Through proper reflection. Now, Lama, as I mentioned earlier, is somebody who cares about others more than oneself, who cares about future lives more than this life. So such a Lama is not easy to find, right? So your teacher or Lama should at least have few qualities. That is, the Lama and teacher should be compassionate, and she or he should have more knowledge than you. Otherwise, she cannot teach you. And then she should also be ready to help you. She should be ready to undergo some hardship in giving the teachings and explaining things, right? So anyway, you should read those texts and see what it means to be a Lama. Okay, so don't just run after everybody who has the title called Lama. There are lamas who so-called lamas who will cheat you. We are living in an ordinary world, right? So different people are there in different forms, right? So be careful. So one very important thing in Buddhism is that you should use your brain. Don't run after everybody because he is famous or she is famous. He has many followers. He has many followers. Not just because of that. Take time, listen to that person, and more importantly, listen to the conduct and behavior of that person. And thereby, if you think this person is reliable, then follow that person, not otherwise. So this is something that you should do not only with the Lama, but with everybody with whom you associate. Right? In today's world, there are so many kind of, unfortunately, so many clever people, cunning people, they look very nice in the beginning, especially if they don't want to take advantage of you. They look very nice, but in the end, they will ruin you if you go with them. Right? There is a Tibetan saying which says, if you recline against a gold mountain, gold dust will stick to you. No? And if you recline against a mountain of dust, dust will stick to you. So it's very important to find the right friend, including the spiritual friend. Okay. So therefore it says the Lama who is supposed to be the guide of your path, uh, of course you should find such a Kalyan Mitra or spiritual teacher, and that Lama should be a qualified Lama. And you cannot just speak of somebody saying that I like him, okay? Or he's from my same province or same place, same country, not with this kind of reasons. Okay. And the qualities of Lama is mentioned in sutras and tantras. So whichever practice you are doing, you should understand them. Generally speaking, the Lama should have good morality and he should know the rituals of the monastic uh, practices. And more importantly, he should be somebody who has compassion to the sick people and who is surrounded by good practitioners and who is also ready to help others through Dharma teaching and giving material things, and who gives timely advices to people who need those timely advices. So such are the qualities of Lama. In other words, in the case of Mahayana practice, then the Lama should be somebody who is well versed in the Mahayana teaching and who observes the conduct of Bodhisattva, right? So there, I don't want to read so many things here. There are so many things to talk about. In other words, you should find a Lama who has compassion and who is ready to benefit others. In other words, he should be somebody, as we already discussed, he should be somebody who has a good understanding of emptiness and who possesses a greater level of compassion. So such a Lama is called Sublime Lama. Because if that person doesn't have qualities higher than you, then he cannot put you on the right path. And if he doesn't have compassion, then the Lama will make you a slave of himself or herself. And I've seen this, unfortunately. They are very, very good people, they are very devoted people. Some of them are by birth, they are very, very spiritually inclined and very good devotion. And then they follow the Lama. And then the Lama, instead of guiding them and giving them teaching, make them work as their attendant, so-called personal attendant. Right? And they make them slave, you see, which is very, very unfortunate. And then gradually they will not only not teach you, but they'll make you work and also take you in the wrong path. Maybe it may take you to engage in, politics or partisan politics or, earning wealth and cheating other people, all those things. That's possible. So be very careful. So this is about how to find a Sublime Lama. And having found such a sublime teacher, and when you actually do the practice, in what kind of place you should practice? That's the second point. The place that you should practice is rely on a place of solitude that is quiet, delightful, and blessed. Okay, rely on that. The lines that I'm reading is my translation, my very initial translation. So I'm not so sure how good these translations are. But the point that I'm making is I'm trying, at least with this first initial translation, I'm trying to be very faithful to the original Tibetan so that I'm able to explain each and every word that is there in the Tibetan text. Otherwise, I can just do a rough translation, which is very easy to listen to. Many translations are like that, but at least for the time being, I'm trying to do almost like a literal translation. Okay, so therefore the text is rely on a place of solitude that is quiet, delightful, and blessed. So in the beginning, when you engage in listening and contemplation, or later on when you engage in meditation, then the place should be place of isolation, solitude. Why this is necessary? This is necessary This is necessary for your spiritual development. Not only in terms of spiritual development, but in our day-to-day life also. Most of the problem that we develop today is always running outside, chasing other people, you know. And while doing so, you are also not good in living with others. So the modern problem is you don't know how to live alone and also don't know how to live with others. So now this text is teaching how to live alone. When you came into this world, you live alone. You came alone, right? When you leave this world also, you will go alone. So why so much fuss in between? I'm not saying don't make relationship, don't go with other people. You can do, but most of the time you should be able to live alone and explore and develop your inner resources, which is going to help you for this life and for many lives to come. Just going up and down with people and so-called people, friend all the time, and not exploring your own mind will not lead you anywhere. Right? So therefore, great even Buddha, he left his home. He didn't have any problem in his home. He was a prince. He has all the facilities, food, clothing, guard, uh, wife, whatever you want, swimming pool, whatever, everything was there. Why did he leave? Because he saw the problems of the people. And he realized that just by continuing the same way of life, I will not be able to solve their problem. So that is why I was saying that we need to be a little bit brave and strong when it comes to doing Dharma practice. I mean, read the history of Milarepa. He was so brave. Today I was reading a piece about him where somebody asks him, "You must be the real Vajradhara, the enlightened Buddha. Are you?" Then he smiled and he said, "I do not know who I am. But you're thinking that I'm a reincarnation of the Buddha, Vajradhara, is not only wrong, but it is one of the gravest mistakes that you can make by thinking like that. The thing that you need to know is study my life," he said. "I was a sinner, a great sinner who killed so many people, so many birds in the beginning of my life. Then I developed some faith to the infallibility of law of causality, karma. And therefore then I undertook dedicated practice. And now I do see the possibilities of becoming a completely enlightened Buddha." That should be your practice, not just seeing who is the reincarnate, who is reincarnation, right? So therefore, in order to develop these inner qualities, it is important to stay in solitude as much as possible. As much as possible. In your busy life also, at least spend some time alone and be with yourself and reflect about what is meaning of human life, what is purpose of human life, what is the real source of happiness, what is the real source of peace, what is the reality of life. Think about those things, right? So go to a place of solitude. In ancient times, the temples and monasteries used to be outside the city and outside the town. So they are also called place of solitude, right? The place of solitude, and it should be place of solitude that is quiet, that is quiet. If it is in a place of solitude, then of course it will be quiet, and then it says quiet and delightful. Delightful means when you stay in that place of solitude, in isolation, it should not be a place where there are thieves roaming around, robbers moving around, uh, ferocious tigers and lions roaming around, right? And also the plants are not poisonous, meaning that the place should be expensive and it has a lot of beautiful plants and flowers and radiant and does not have dangerous cliffs from which you can fall down, right? So it should really be like going to a picnic, almost like picnic. You choose a really nice place. I mean, normally in our ordinary case, we are so fond of trekking, right? Some of these meditators, they stay in those high places where we do trekking once in a life, but they spend their whole life there in the mountain. And Shantideva in his Bodhicitta Avatara says, to be in that place of solitude is so delightful, so peaceful, and it gives you so much blessing and happiness because nobody says anything bad about you there. You're alone. In the human society, everybody is talking about each other, right? Everybody is judging each other. There's nobody who says anything about you. There, you always hear the songs of the chirping birds and other uh, sentient beings, and you have the natural food of uh, fruits and so forth. So it's really delightful, right? So that's the meaning of delightful. Because if your mind is happy and delightful, you can practice, right? So if you're not able to go to such an isolated place, but at least in your own small room or big room, whatever it is, make that place interesting. When you get up in the morning, then make sure that you prepare your bed nicely so that you feel like coming back to do some practice or even sleeping, whatever it is. It should be inviting, right? Because you are now living in a place where nobody uh, belongs. Then it should be a place that is blessed. Blessed means there are places, as we already discussed, in maybe like delightful because of nice plants and running streams and flowers, things like that. But it may not necessarily be blessed by somebody. So if you do your meditation in a place, in Tibet, there are so many places where Milarepa meditated, where Tsongkhapa meditated, and this 100,000 kind of meditators, they meditate in those higher mountains. So those places are not only delightful, but they are also blessed. There's a huge difference whether the place is blessed or not. For example, if you go to Bodh Gaya not necessarily very clean in ordinary sense of the term. So many people come there, so much dust, So I really fear to go to Bodh Gaya for many years. I tried to avoid Bodh Gaya. But last year I had to go, and this time, luckily, I did not get sick. I really enjoyed, so I might go again. So anyway, the point is, Bodh Gaya is a place which is really charged or blessed by the Buddha, so you can feel the vibration. So whatever practice you do, it is more kind of uh, easy to do that practice. Similarly, if you go to a place where a lot of killings has been done, there you will not be able to practice properly. Your mind will become unclear. And when I traveled to Russia with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, uh, His Holiness uh, one morning in Moscow, he said there must have had a lot of killing in this area because my morning meditation was not very clear. My mind was not clear. Another teacher who visited the same place also said the same thing, right? So if you go to such kind of hostile place where a lot of killings have been done, your practice will not be successful. You might get horrible dreams, things like that, right? Like in India, most of the schools, most of the Tibetan schools which are established, many of these schools, places of those schools were kind of barracks of a British army in the past, where so many killings, imprisonments have been done. So these Tibetan students, they have many stories to tell of the nightmares that they encountered, right? So that's the thing. So therefore, the place should be not only delightful, but should be blessed. Number third, rely on a friend who is reliable and harmonious in view and conduct. Now, for example, in the case of the monks, when they enter a monastery, then they have to, be with the other monks. So therefore, naturally, all these monks must have received initiations and empowerments to gather from high teachers. So therefore, they are definitely Vajra brothers. In other words, when you practice together in a community, in a monastery, or even otherwise, it is important that people who are living together, their way of thinking, their philosophy should be of similar type. Otherwise, they might uh, start arguing, and the worst cases might end up fighting. For example, even in the monastery, if the monks in the monastery are not, of similar view, that means dedicated to the Dharma practice. Instead, they engage in politics, and then they follow different political parties. So therefore, their view is different, right? So this might end up in creating division in the monastery. It happens. So it's important that they should be of real Dharma brothers and sisters, and whose whole focus is to do the Dharma practice and nothing else. So to have the view and conduct similar means here the view of Dharma practice and the conduct of doing good things. So you should go with those people whose view is of Dharma and who has good conduct of doing the good things, not the bad things. Because if you go with those people who has a bad view and bad conduct, then of course, even if you do exactly like them, in that case, you also have similar view and similar conduct, but that similar view and conduct will lead you to ruin, lead you to the wrong way. So here, having similar conduct view means not in doing bad things, but in doing good things, right? So this is true not only in the Buddhist practice, but even in the ordinary life. It is important to go with the good friends, not with the bad friends. So your view should be similar, your meditation should be similar, your conduct should be similar, and your, if possible, teacher should also be same. Okay. Otherwise, you might fight over your lama. If you have one lama, the other has other lama, then sometimes we say, oh, my lama is more qualified than your lama. We always have this tendency, unfortunately. At the end of the day, the yardstick for judging anything is whether it's related to you or not. If it is your lama, very good. If it is your socks, then even if it is smelly, it is good. I call it smelly socks, right? So this is our way of thinking. So therefore, it is important to remain impartial, and the friend should be somebody who is not only whose view and conduct not only agree with you, but he should be somebody who is reliable. That means he should be a person who does not practice duplicity, say one thing in your face and do other thing behind you. There are people like that also, unfortunately, right? If your friend is not reliable, then it will be very difficult to uh, get the needed help from that person. This does not mean to say that even if you are associating with a bad friend, you should mentally give up that person. No, you can't give up anybody because you are developing bodhicitta, right? Developing bodhicitta. But you should not yourself let yourself go in the wrong direction. So in other words, if you're in monastery, then you try to find one who is best in the view and philosophy, and who is best in the conduct and behavior. So that should be selected, be it your teacher or be it your friend. For example, even though you are living in a monastery, but the person with whom you make friendship is somebody who really can't sit still and can't study, can't meditate. It's very fond of, roaming into the market at every possible opportunity, going up, going down, then you will also do like that, right? Then it's very difficult for you to uh, make any possible spiritual development. Number 4, rely on moderation by remembering the faults of articles of livelihood. That means we use many kind of articles, material things for our livelihood. But when you use those things as much as possible, reduce obsession with those things, and remember the faults of those articles. Faults means all those things, be it your car, even it may be your Mercedes car, or it may be your nice car. Okay, you need all these things. They look nice, but the fault of all these things is they are all impermanent. Not only that, because they look nice, you might develop attachment. If somebody breaks it, you might get angry, right? So therefore, in Buddhism, we talk about practicing renunciation. The less you have, the less there is need to develop grasping and attachment and craving, and the freer you will be. The more you have, the more it will be difficult for you to move anywhere. More you need to take care about all those possessions and making sure that they are not eaten by moths, they are not getting moldy, right? And they are not stolen, things like that. So you become slave to all those possessions. You thought you have it, but you become a slave to all those things. And as I mentioned earlier, all those things that you thought is needed and that you collected over years, but in truth, in reality, you have hardly used many of these things. But you need to look after them, right? You need to look after them. You become unnecessary slave to all these things that you acquired over the years. So therefore, it's important to have moderation. Moderation. I need this much, not more than this, right? If you have no contentment, no moderation, then I don't know how many cups you need, how many shoes you need, how many umbrellas you need. If you keep on counting all this, there's no limit to your greed. And the more you buy due to greed, the more you will get into problem. This does not mean that you don't need to use those articles, even if you stay in a monastery and associate with very good friends. But of course, still you need certain articles regularly for your livelihood, because without this, some of these articles you cannot survive. And if you do not survive, then of course there's no uh, possibility to do dharma practice. So what is the way of maintaining your livelihood? Livelihood here means food, food which makes you survive, and articles, articles means material things that is necessary for you, for your study. For example, your clothing and your pots and other things. So we need to use this. But when you use this, you should also at the same time remember their limits, their faults. Especially in the case of monks and nuns, most of the things that they use are offered by other people, right? Probably there is hardly anything that you earned by yourself through your hard work. People have offered it to you with faith, with great devotion, thinking that these monks must be doing good practice and these monks must be observing morality, right? Uh, Even when they are praying, they must be thinking that these monks must be doing prayer related to the, tantric practices like generation stage, completion stage. Uh, so with this kind of belief, they are making these offerings. So such offerings, unless you are doing your practice properly, taking such offering is said to be like eating a burning molten iron. You cannot digest it. But on the other hand, if you observe morality, engage in listening, contemplation, and meditation, then of course you can use those offerings. So remembering the faults, meaning that even if you have to eat those offerings, you should think this, I'm eating this simply for living so that I'm able to do Dharma practice. And so in the case of food, this is very important. In the case of eating food, whether somebody had offered it to you or whether you have earned it by yourself, when you eat food, make sure that you do not eat too much. Then many sicknesses will come, laziness will come, sleep will come, and also don't eat too little. If you eat too little, then very soon you will get hungry and tired, and you will not be able to do any practice. So again, there should be the middle way, the moderation. And then when you eat food, put food in your plate as much as you can eat, not more than what you can eat. Unfortunately, today in the world, we see so many people. On the one hand, there are so many people, poor people who have nothing to eat. On the other hand, there are so many people who are just wasting so much food. They just put almost like a hill on the plate. And then of course, they'll not be able to eat it. They eat half of it and the half they will throw it, which is really shame. Even if it is something earned by you, it is wastage. Okay. Or another way of thinking is the food that you're eating today, even though you have paid for it. In some cases, you may not have paid for it. Somebody have offered it to you. Even if you paid it for you, if this food is not processed or this food should be seen as the result of many people working. Many people, the farmers, the cooks, the who prepared it, then your attendant, other friends who brought it on your table. So many people, after so many people's hard work, you got this food. So appreciate that. Pray for them. Therefore, there is a prayer. When you eat food, you should make this prayer. The prayer from Nagarjuna says, the food should be seen as a medicine, and you should enjoy that food without attachment, without hatred, not to make you like big and strong and radiant, but simply for living. so that you are able to do good things. You are able to do practice, right? So very important. Then test it, test the food. These days, people don't even test food. The mouth may be munching something, but eye is watching television or mobile phone or something like that. You are not concentrating on the food. Concentrate on the food. Enjoy it. You are so lucky to be able to enjoy such a food like that, right? So it's a result of many people's hard work. So similarly with the article like clothing also, it's again the clothes should be of middle way, moderation. That means you should not wear very costly cloth like the cloth of a king, and also you should not wear very poor cloth like that of a beggar, right? Like that of a beggar, like that of beggar means from the traditional point of view, like that of beggar means a pant that is torn out and having many holes. These days, unfortunately, people wear jeans which is torn out and having holes. It's supposed to be a fashion, right? But in accordance with the past masters' teaching, these are like beggar's clothes, torn out, worn out, right? Okay, 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 some questions maybe here. Okay, some questions. We are already only 15 minutes, right?
Yes, Geshe-la, there was one question from last week that I wanted to ask that someone had posted in the chat. And the person said, Geshe-la, what can one do about one's hubris? Like while listening to you, my mind is like, hey, I have all those qualities. I'm so great. While at the same time, I know that I don't have those qualities.
I don't know how to translate this. In Tibetan, we have a term called ngombe ngajel. That means arrogance of thinking that you have these qualities even when you don't have. That may be possible. But you should check carefully. I can't judge. You may have all those qualities, but you should judge carefully. If you have those qualities, then wonderful. But don't get arrogant. Don't get puffed up, and see uh, how you are using those qualities. Is it beneficial or not beneficial? Right? And if you don't have those qualities, then it is just arrogance. So realize that and develop the real qualities instead of developing this fantasy that you have those qualities. Okay? Yeah.
One more question, Kishila. Someone says, when I stay alone, I get bored. How to deal with boredom in solitude?
You love yourself. If you are getting bored, it means you don't love yourself. If you sit with your girlfriend who you love so much, do you get bored? I don't think you will get bored because you love your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever. So similarly, if you're feeling bored, it means you don't love yourself, number one. Number two, you have not anything useful to do. So therefore, when we talk about concentration, it's not concentrating on just one object. Concentration in general is very easy. Do something in your own room, do something, get occupied. That is concentration. Do something, concentrate on that. That is a kind of concentration. So when you do this concentration, you'll never get an opportunity to get bored. For example, I don't get opportunity to get bored. I also live alone, but I don't remember getting bored because I have so many things to do. If I get tired, then I go to 5 minutes sleep or something like that, or do a little bit of washing and cleaning, things like that. But you don't get bored. But it is possible that you get bored. Then in that case, some of the practices I already told you. But in other cases, if you get bored, then just go for a walk. Go for a short walk, possibly into a forest if nearby, a clean area. Go for a walk, do some stretching exercises, okay, and then come back. So get occupied with something. Yeah.
The same person is asking how to love oneself.
How to love oneself? How do you love other people? You love other people because you see some qualities in them, right? So similarly, you love yourself because number one, you are born as a human being, right? And then I'm sure there are other people who love you. That means you have good qualities, right? Right? And then the most important answer is that you must love yourself because you are the only person with whom you are going to spend the rest of your life. The other people that you love, not necessarily how long they will be, not sure how long they will be with you. Right? Some of them come for 1 week, some of them come for 1 month, or even if husband and wife, they may be there for some time, but they are not necessarily all the time together. But you are the person, only person in the world with whom you have to spend your whole life, day and night, same bed. When go for a walk, you are there. Go to sleep, you are there. So there are a lot of reasons to love yourself. And then of course you have the Buddha nature, the capacity to become the Buddha. You have the capacity to develop that great compassion that we already discussed. And similarly, you have this capacity to develop so many other great qualities. So you must love yourself.
Thank you for your beautiful response, Geshe-la. I will ask Anastasia now if she has any questions from the Russian students.
No question yet.
Very good.
Someone just posted a question in the chat, Geshe-la. They're saying, thank you so much for your teachings. And I have a question about the place we practice. If there has been a history of violence, conflict, and other difficulties there, are there any specific practices we can use as support?
Compassion. Meditate on compassion. Because the place happens to be quite hostile, you may find some difficulty in concentrating or having a clear mind. That doesn't mean that you should leave that place and run away. You should develop compassion, practice compassion. The reason I'm saying this is, there is a quite said to be a quite hostile place, not very far from the place where I'm living right now. There is a small place where we had a small Tibetan, what is it, sculptures, making sculptures, metals and other things, school there, not very far from where I'm staying. So that people used to say that place is inhabited by some evil spirits. So one time they requested His Holiness that this place is very hostile. His Holiness, please come and bless this place. So His Holiness said that he went there and he said the only thing I can do is meditate on compassion, saying that if there is any one of you creating this problem and difficulty, it is not good for you and good for others. Stop doing that. Instead, develop love and compassion. And mentally, he gave this kind of instruction, and he himself meditated on compassion. And His Holiness said, His Holiness jokingly said, I was lucky, I was successful. Later on, people said that the disturbance had just disappeared. And it happened in few places. In the case of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So we, being the follower of His Holiness, we should also do the same thing. Yeah.
There's one more question in the chat, Geshe-la. Serving others more than self has been called an act of compassion. But in today's world, this is called people-pleasing tendency. What to do?
It depends upon how you do the practice. Because there is a saying which says, if it is useful, even you can even give, you should even give poison if it's beneficial. If it is not beneficial, don't even give medicine. Right? So like that, you should see. Just because the text says you should practice giving, doesn't mean you should go out tomorrow and practice giving everywhere, even when it is discouraged. In some places, it's discouraged because it promotes a beggar, So it depends on the situation. So therefore, in the teaching, when it comes to practice or comes to the practice of giving, it says, giving in general is important, but that does not mean you should give weapons. You should give swords and poisons, right? It does not mean you should give something for people who are not able to digest certain food, right? So you need to see what is the time to whom you are giving the practicing, to whom you are practicing giving, and what is the time. It's useful, not useful. You need to analyze all these things.
There's one more question, Geshe-la, and this person is saying, you said never give up on anyone in the spirit of bodhicitta. How to help people that won't help themselves? For example, narcissists and those that give off negative vibrations.
Yeah, it depends. Like even Buddha could not help everybody at his time, right? Not only one Buddha, many Buddhas have come, but still we have so many people having difficulty, right? So this does not mean you'll be able to solve all the problem. And also, as I mentioned in the case of giving, similarly in the case of helping other people, you should also see whether what you do will really help them or harm them. In some cases, it might harm them, so don't do it, right? So sometimes, so you should see, you should judge carefully. And then, of course, again, among those people who don't help themselves, there are different people. There are some people who don't help themselves because they don't know how to help. That doesn't mean that they don't want help. So there are some people who, if you help, they will accept the help and they will be very happy. Then there are others who don't help themselves and don't want others also help them. So what to do for the time being, right? And then sometimes, there are people who say they don't want help, but they need help. If you go to them directly, they will not accept your help, but indirectly you do something to help them. So there are different ways, different approaches, not one
We don't have
solution.
Sorry, we don't have any
Yeah,
more English questions. Antesi, I don't know if you have anything for the last couple of minutes.
last couple of minutes, good night or good morning, whatever.
Um,
Have a peaceful sleep or peaceful rest.
yes,
And
so
enjoy your day, enjoy your night. That's
yeah,
all I have to say.
thank you so much, Geshe-la. And
Thank
for
you.
those who don't know, Geshe-la, is teaching from India, so it's about past almost 9:30 p.m. his time after a long day of work. So many thanks, Geshe-la, for making time for your teachings. And and you can unmute yourselves now if you wish to greet Geshe-la. Thank you, Geshe-la, so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tudiche, Geshe-la, Tudiche.
Спасибо.
Thank
you so much. Спасибо.
Thank you.
Geshe-la.
And happy Mother's Day, Geshe-la, and to all the mothers out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.